not clickbait, but I think it is fair to point out that there was, in the last 24 hours, there was a rumor, and I don't know where exactly it circulated from. I got to chase that down later today, but that if the Niners decide at the end of camp that Sam Darnold's not going to be on this roster, that Green Bay, who has Jordan Love, and then they have Sean Clifford from Penn State as their primary backup, that Green Bay might have interest in trading for Sam Darnold. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know what? That is interesting. The average third string quarterback in the NFL makes about $1 million a year. Well, the Niners have signed Brandon Allen to a contract that is exactly $1 million a year if he makes the team. And then I'm thinking to myself, why would Brandon Allen even sign here at all if he's going to be a practice squad guy? Because he's going to make $200,000 on the practice squad. Why would he take an $800,000 plus haircut to be on the Niner practice squad? But then I looked at his actual salary, and it's $1 million if he makes the squad. So I think, we may be shaping this Niner quarterback debate differently than what it actually is. It's not, I don't know that it's Brock versus Trey or Brock versus Trey versus Sam versus Brandon. To me, the more I look at this, Coach, the more I think they're committed to going with Brock, number one, if he's healthy. Nobody's really talking about Brandon Allen at all, but it may be that he's the third string quarterback and that the real competition this summer is going to be the one we've seen so far this spring, which is Sam Darnold against Trey Lance. The winner gets that number 2 job, and the loser, what happens? Because I don't think the Niners are going to keep Sam Darnold with the 12th highest cap figure on the team as their third string quarterback.
And they're not going to pay Trey $9 million.
Well, I think it's maybe more like, let's get into it then. It may be more likely that the Niners might want to pay Trey $9 million to be the third than to pay Sam $5 million to be the third, because there's an investment in Trey. And I really think that if they think long-term, that's probably the best way to think with Trey. But it does make you kind of wonder if Darnold or Lance, beats out the other, especially in Darnold's case. He may be, as much as everybody's talking him up, he may be trade bait at the end of camp. I know they can afford to keep Purdy and Trey and Lance, but the question is, would they want to have $14 million tied up in a cap?
In backup quarterbacks.
What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, we talked about this.
Clickbait?
Huh?
Do you think it's clickbait, or do you think
it's
no?
To
me, it seems like a launch point for discussion.
I like this conversation better than the narrative conversations. I mean, obviously this is a narrative, but money is a little bit more concrete. You can chart it out a little bit more, and one of the primary reasons why Brock was advantageous to our organization was because of his price tag, right? We actually got a cheaper, younger, viable option at quarterback. So for all of the reasons that we know with the 8 games played, we understand why Brock not only works for us schematically and from a player and locker room and leadership perspective, but Brock works for us fiscally. Now, with Trey, if we're charting out Trey's $9 million made this year, plus his 5th-year option looming, and then we look at Sam from the money that he has laden in incentives and the timing that he came to the team first day of free agency, it does look like the real decision that the Niners are making would be between Brock and Sam. Well, not Brock and Sam, but Sam and Trey. Getting rid of Brandon Allen just doesn't make sense as far as your third string quarterback, because if you keep Brock and Trey and Sam, well, what happens is that if Sam is your number 2, then we got a $9 million number 3 quarterback. That just doesn't make sense, right? And if you say, all right, well, if Sam beats out Trey, does Sam beat out Trey enough for us to cut Trey? And then if you cut Trey, that's not going to go away. If you cut Trey, then the title on what we gave Trey, and then who we cut him for, somebody else's third overall pick in Sam Darnold, which truthfully speaking, not to be mean, but if we could sit here and say that, talk, candidly about all of the quarterbacks, Sam is a retrade, so for us to let go or cut Trey, the only way that I could see Trey getting cut is if he looks really bad. If he just looks that bad against Sam, then they could ride that. The organization could ride that through and say, hey, look, we gave him his shot. And in the middle of his shot, not only did he look bad, but he got beat out by a guy who's just learning our offense, right? But then on the flip side, if you cut Sam, you got to make sure that Trey is 100% what you need as the number 2 guy, because as soon as Trey starts to show any type of promise, they're going to be elevating Trey to try to see what he could do against Brock. The only thing there's a couple of reasons why I don't want Trey to get cut. One is because it raises the scrutiny on the regime and the coaching staff for letting go of a player that you spent so many assets for. 2, if Trey gets cut and then he goes somewhere and actually shows any type of promise, that looks bad on not only the coaching staff, but us as an organization. There's 2 different things here. There's the organization and then there's the coaching staff regime, right? I feel like Trey getting cut is a bad look on the coaching staff, right? It's a bad look on the organization. But Trey getting cut and then going and playing well is a really bad look on not only the organization, but the coaching regime, right? And that's going to be hard to come from, because if we're on the flip side, I'm rooting for anybody who's the number 1, who's the starting quarterback for the 49ers, right? Whatever the name is. There's one guy I don't want, but I just don't think that scenario will be fair to Brock. If you cut Trey and Trey's out of the building, then our fan base, Larry, they're going to be on top of Brock like white on rice, man. They're going to be expecting the world out of Brock. And honestly, Brock is going to be in some type of weird position because he's got to be better than Jimmy, right? Who everybody said he instantly was an uptick from once he took over from Jimmy. And then he's also got to be more promising than what they said Trey was going to be for us. So really, Brock is in a position where he really can't do worse than what he showed us for the first 8 games of last season if Trey's not in the building, because the scrutiny is going to be higher on him to succeed because of what we're getting rid of to keep him on the field.